Good evening, I'm Pia Hontiveros. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. For those who live in the city of Zamboanga, this must most probably be not just a horrifying, but a most painful time in their lives to see the city where you were born, grew up, live, work, raise a family in. It could be all too much to bear. There's talk that military operations against the MNLF rebels could be in its final stages, but now the realities will have to be dealt with, the realities of devastation and the rebuilding that needs to be done. We have with us here in the studio tonight, again, AFP spokesperson Brigadier General Domingo Tutaan, and on the phone we have two Zamboangueños, a netizen who prefers to be introduced or called by her first name, Candy, and Edwin To, who is Vice President for External Affairs of the Zamboanga Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to speak for businessmen. But let's begin with a live report from Miguel Ortilla, who is still in Zamboanga City and who spent his 25th birthday there yesterday. Miggy?
Hi Pia, we are here at the Zamboanga City Sports Complex serving as a major evacuation center here in Zamboanga City, and as you can see in my background, this place is starting to have a name. People are starting to call it Tent City, as right now so many people are staying here. You have children, you have adults here taking shelter as the armed conflict continues. Pia, from the field to the oval to the bleachers, it is occupied by people, and I don't know if you can hear it. There is music, and on the oval there are people are playing games, and you have different sorts of people trying to just entertain themselves in this situation. It's quite hard to believe, and that you tend to forget a sense that these people are left with no more homes to go back to. This stadium, Pia, houses 65,000 evacuees from 6 different barangays still affected by the conflict. And all over the city, you have 109,000 people staying at 36 different evacuation centers. And in this sort of helpless situation, local and international aid is starting to pour in. Actually, since last week, you have the Red Cross, you have the United Nations giving aid to these people who are caught in the conflict and are left with no more homes to go back to. Now, NGOs are doing stress debriefing. You have play therapy also for children, especially for those who are exposed to the sounds and sights of armed conflict. Now, at this point, the city government is not giving us any details as to how they plan to rebuild, rehabilitate, or as to when these people will be able to go back to their homes. But the mayor of the city, Mayor Ben Climaco, has been giving very strong statements that they will not let this crisis ruin their city. And of course, part of that moving on, Pia, is to making those responsible for the atrocities accountable. Pia?
Thank you, Miguel Ortilla, reporting to us live from Zamboanga City. Here in the studio, we have General Domingo Tutaan, AFP spokesperson. Good evening again, General. Thank you for being here.
Pia. It's nice to be back here in just that.
Really, it's nice to be back. Nice to be back here, and nice to have you back again.
Yes,
no?
thank you.
I guess after a week, things have improved on the ground.
Yes, definitely. The situation right now is at the edge of being normal, but however, we are still continuing our efforts. We have still reports that the Miswari faction is still in the area, somewhere in the Santa Catalina area, and holding about a number of hostages also. But the good news is that most of these armed men have been either captured, surrendered, or arrested, or have been killed in the ensuing firefight. And a lot of civilian hostages, numbering to about 178, were already rescued. They have been processed, and we're really some are undergoing the necessary debriefing and things like that.
How many hostages are still in the hands of the MNLF rebels?
Our total count right now is something like about 2021.
2021.
Yes.
Okay,
and there are about
mostly
7.
what? Children?
We still believe there are still women and children in the area. I mean, not children, the young kids, but more on the young adults, teenagers on this. And there's still about 70, more or less, of the Miswari faction who's still in holdout in that area.
In Barangay Santa Catalina?
Yes.
They are
So
in one building or spread out?
So to speak, yeah, in one area. They're in between the Santa Barbara, Santa Catalina areas. Generally, that's the whole area where they are still holdout.
Hindi pa sila naubusan ng ammo?
Well, yeah, we believe they still have, but of course, it's been a 10-day thing already, and probably this has decimated already the efforts on this. But one ammo is still one ammo too many, so to speak. It could still kill somebody else or something like that. And
Yeah.
again, the civilian hostages are still our concern on this.
Of those MNLF rebels that were killed or taken into custody, ano yung mga firearms nila?
Well, there are a lot. There are M16 rifles. There's AK-47 rifles. There are even the high-powered. We have also there was a Barrett rifle that was also taken, but it was presented by the Crisis Management Committee yesterday,
Yeah.
and I believe that this have been all recovered. And Pia, I think that's
Meron bang RPG, mortar?
yes, there are.
Na-recover?
Yes, there are. Yes.
So wala nang yung mga naiwan na 70, wala na silang RPG,
Well,
walang
we still
mortar?
believe they have probably. We don't want to take chances. We don't want to be complacent or have a false sense of security here. We're just making sure that they don't just desperately fire this and at any given target that they may wish to do.
So where is Javier Malik with those 70 rebels?
Yes, we believe that he's still with that group.
Okay, he's not wounded.
We don't have reports as far as this is concerned, and as I've said, there's a process that we're undergoing in the rear, in what we call the rear, or in the collection point, as far as those arrested, captured, and those even killed in the firefight.
What kind of information have you been able to get from those who've been arrested or surrendered about Malik?
Well, Pia, I cannot discuss that on the air, of course.
sorry.
It's operational in nature, but nonetheless,
should I
we are
ask a
getting
question like
this.
that?
There we are.
We'll talk about that off the record na lang. Okay. During the break,
Okay.
you can tell me na lang. Okay. And so there's about 70
More or
MNLF
less,
rebels.
yes.
Well, wala pang, kasi di ba meron din mga reports na nagtatanggal ng uniforme, nagsusuot na lang ng sibilyan, tapos umaalis na lang. So,
Yeah, that is why in the collection points of those civilians rescued, there is a determination on whether these are real hostages or members of the community that were trapped in that area or rebels. So far, we have not encountered somebody on that kind, that rebels disguising themselves as civilians. But nonetheless, we have a process on this. We are also enlisting the help. I mean, the collection point is also enlisting the help of barangay captains and relatives to properly identify the hostages.
okay. We'll speak first to a netizen, a Zamboangana. She's going to join us on the phone. We're just going to call her by her first name. That's what she prefers. Candy, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Hi. Can you tell us first, Candy, how long have you been living in Zamboanga City? You were born there?
Yes, I was born here. So, Zamboanga, born and bred.
Okay. What is your situation at the moment?
Well, today has been relatively quiet. Last night, I was actually able to sleep 6 solid hours since the fighting, I couldn't hear the fighting anymore. So I was able to sleep a bit peacefully. We also went out today because some supermarkets were finally open, and they were really fully open to the public because the past few days they would only let a few people in at a time. Just so if there was an emergency, they would be able to shut down immediately.
Okay. So you went to the supermarket, you bought provisions for yourself, but I heard you also bought goods for repacking for the evacuees. Is that correct?
Yes, because some of our batchmates from college, we decided to, some sent donations, and then we just sort of got together, and then we went to buy some goods, repack them, and drop them off at one of the satellite evacuation centers here in the city.
Okay. Candy, what were the last 10 days like, if you were to describe it?
Well, maybe if you've backread some of my Twitter statements, it has been really a roller coaster of emotions, with fear being the foremost, especially since I have 2 kids. So my main worry was their safety, because if the fight had escalated or by some bad luck it escalates again, so I was worried how I would evacuate them, because they're still, I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, so you can just imagine how hard it would be.
Yung 6-year-old mo nagtatanong, nagpapa-explain ba sa'yo, Mom, what's going on, ganun ba?
Yes, a lot of, because I'm not actually very active in Twitter until this happened, so it was my way to keep up with the news, and then suddenly people were reacting and asking how it was. So I just it was part of my venting also, just to relax a bit. And then I would ask for updates, and I would tell them what I was experiencing personally.
What questions were your kids asking you?
Pardon?
What questions were your own kids asking you? Were they asking you what was going on?
Yes, they would ask me to confirm if what they heard on the news it was the one that was actually happening here.
Oh,
So,
I meant your children, yung mga anak mo.
yung mga ano, actually my 6-year-old, at first he was just happy because he didn't have to go to school. Then after a while, I think one time he heard the loud bang and he was asking what it was. And I just told him there are some bad people around, so we have to stay home until the mayor says it's okay, so you can go back to school. But this week, he's gotten really antsy and just wants to go back to school. And I just told him we really have to wait.
Okay. And that means also you couldn't go to work, right?
I'm actually a stay-at-home mom because my husband works overseas, so I watch over the kids. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
my main job.
Yeah. Candy, what are your fears about this crisis?
Well, foremost, I was worried, of course, like I mentioned before, is the safety of my kids. So, and then second would be whether this crisis has managed to affect the relationship between the peoples who are living here in Zamboanga, most especially the Muslims and Christians, because I've noticed that some people seem to really want to make it about religion when it's not. And yeah, that's mostly my fear. And then third is how our city is actually going to get back on its feet, because with so many people without their homes, and then I'm thinking, how are we going to help them at the same time? Are we ever really going to be able to go back to our normal lives without worrying what's going to happen next, if we're going to get attacked again? So
Okay, and of course, how are people going to, work, no, and get paid and.
I have some friends who really have to go, who are working, and then they're really scared of going back to work because they don't know what's going. I mean, it's the general fear for the people here. What's going to happen next?
Okay.
We want to feel safe again.
That's it. Yeah, you want to feel safe again. Okay. My last question: what are your aspirations, your dreams for your city?
Well, before this crisis started, I mean, Zamboanga it wasn't the most peaceful, it wasn't the most developed, but it was home for us. So, in our own way, we felt safe, we felt protected here. So, this crisis has kind of set us back. So I'm hoping that despite all that's happened, and despite what Zamboangueños are going through right now, I hope that we'll be able to continue to stand together and maybe slowly rebuild the city to what it once was, or even better than it was before. And well, I really hope that the people who perpetrated this heinous crime against us, will get their just desserts and won't go unpunished.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Candy, and we wish you all the luck.
Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Candy, a netizen from Zamboanga. We're taking a short break. News.PH will be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News.PH on the Solar News channel. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Joining us now, are we going straight? Let's go back to Zamboanga. Yes, we have. Do we have Edwin To on the line? Yes. Yes, we do. Let's go to Zamboanga. Joining us on the phone is Edwin To. He's the Vice President for the Zamboanga Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Edwin, good evening.
Good evening, Pia.
Edwin, let's talk about business in Zamboanga City. Yours first, no? You have a supermarket business.
Yes.
And you, kanina nung nag-uusap tayo, you were telling me there are 10 supermarket businesses and not everybody can open. Can you tell us more
Yes.
about that?
Yeah, sure. Actually, there are 10 major players in Zamboanga, and 7 of us are located within the city limits. So we call this a central business district. So what happened is the conflict is within the 200 meters or 300 to 400 meters away from City Hall. So we're all affected. So up to this evening, based on the crisis management meeting, we don't have the go signal yet to open our stores.
Okay.
So, and the 7 players is basically supplying around 50% of the demand, or they're supplying 50% of the whole consumer goods of Zamboanga.
Okay.
So the consumer would have to shift, would have to bring their business somewhere else, outside the city.
Edwin, kanina nung nag-uusap tayo kaninang hapon, it's what I found very interesting about what you said. You said you've stopped counting your losses. You're not even going to count your losses anymore. Why did you say that? What did you mean by that? And what is more important for you?
So basically, if we continue counting our losses, the first few days, we were thinking hopefully it will stop soon because it's costing us so much, X amount. But after 3 to 4 days, we stopped counting because it will be very depressing already. So we shifted basically the businessman or the business owner, we shifted instead of desire to open is how do we help the city cope with what's happening. So we have restaurants, since they are closed for business, so they converted their restaurants into soup kitchen. They invite their families and their friends to go there and start packing first for the evacuees, and then later on they started packing food for the military. So we're just helping because we know this military, the backup, the support are coming from other places, and somehow the hospitality of our community kicks in. So basically we just have to make it comfortable knowing they're in the front line fighting for our city.
Okay.
Or protecting our city for that matter.
Edwin, above and beyond hospitality and above and beyond helping in the relief efforts, you said something interesting also. You, as far as you're concerned, it's important for businessmen or people who own businesses to still pay their employees, their workers, kahit na hindi nakapagtrabaho dahil nga sarado, no? Everyone's closed down. Why do you feel the need to do that?
Yeah, so this happened on the 9th of September. So only if we count that based on the calendar work days, people will just be working for 6 days. And personally for our part, for our company, what we did was we just computed to fast track everything. We didn't count anymore how many days they came to work. We just used the payroll of the first 2 weeks of August. So that people, we know some of the evacuees would also join them in their household. So it's just more of it's more of a humanitarian act already.
Okay, so you're paying them. Makukuha nila yung sweldo nila because why? Why is that important for you?
Because later on, because for us we have to help. We have to keep the economy going. So it's about because there's a lot of informal sectors coming to us or going to City Hall, saying that they have no more money. So since they're informal, we have no way of keeping track of how much they're really losing, the balut vendors. So we just have to put money into the hands of those formal sector or employees, and hopefully they will continue to keep the economy going.
Okay. And you are using, kanina ang sabi mo, best practices ang ginagamit nyo rito, and you're not reinventing the wheel. This is all about disaster recovery, right?
Yes. And we came across an article, we call it the Disaster Unemployment Assistance. They use this in US or in Canada in case there's a disaster. So what they do is in case people cannot go to their workplace, so this will kick in. It's like an insurance. So we actually, I talked to Secretary Dinky Sullivan this afternoon, and she asked us to put it in writing, and she will bring this matter to the attention of the president. So what we're saying here is not all private sector can pay the 9 days of missing, 9 days of no work. So we would like to tap the national budget to help us pay for the foregone salaries and wages of the people.
Okay. What is your situation at the moment? Personal, no? Family?
Personally, the number one is the kids are now iPad champions. So the last 10 days, they're just home. So, but we try to, because we live around 2 kilometers away from ground zero, although the business is 100 meters away. So we're very fortunate. We cannot hear the gunshots here. But during the mortar, the bombardment, you just have to open the aircon and hopefully they don't hear it. But we have friends who are within the city limits. They have stray bullets in their houses. So they try to just calm their family, keep them indoor. We just keep them busy. I have a friend who would bring his kids to the relief center and help them repack the goods.
Okay. What are your fears about this crisis, Edwin?
Basically, the fear here is if this will drag on, no, we're now on day 10, and we cannot have any specific answers when this will end. So all the supermarkets, we have around 7 to 10 days more supply. The port, basically, we don't have passengers movement. We can just bring in the cargo. And then once we reach a certain level wherein we have no more basic rice, sugar, and although we have trackings, but it won't come in as fast. So that will create another problem. Even those who can afford will not be able to buy food. We're not talking about those displaced already, the day-to-day worker. We're talking about those who have money that they cannot buy food.
Okay. Edwin, kanina Mayor Beng Climaco spoke again, and she was saying so many words that we will rise again. Zamboanga City will rise again. How do you feel about that?
Basically, the Zamboangueños, as far as we're concerned, the business sectors, even the workers, they're all ready. They said, when can we go back to work? So we are here. We have a lot of secretaries from Manila coming here, but we're telling the fellow Zamboangueño, this is basically, they will come, they will go. But this is our home. We're here to stay, and we really have to do our part. They can approve budgets. They can say we will help you, but we should be ready ourselves, to roll out our sleeves and work together.
Okay. And my last question, Edwin, I had asked Candy, a netizen, a while ago, what are your dreams and aspirations for your city?
Basically, Zamboanga has always been the trading hub in the 70s, 80s. We all heard of barter trade. So we want that back. We want to have that prestige back in Zamboanga. And even way before this one, our chamber, we have been working very hard to make sure Zamboanga it will be the gateway to the BIMP IAGA. So we want to be in the forefront instead of the usual joke that we're the back door, no? We want to be in the forefront, and then basically we're very close to Malaysia. It's just 45 minutes by plane. We're very close to Indonesia, so the market is just so big. And we want them, if they will penetrate Manila, they will go through Zamboanga. So instead of via Manila to Zamboanga, it will be Zamboanga to Manila. And also, our population here, Zamboanga, 800,000 as of 2010, we want to be able to use these resources, or maximize, not use. We want to maximize these resources here, the human resources here, instead of exporting them out of Zamboanga. No? Investors will come back to Zamboanga. Tourism will come back to Zamboanga, and families, they don't have to leave Zamboanga because of, we hope this incident like this will not happen again.
It's
and I would like
that
to say, in fairness to any cities, to have, if you have 400 rebels coming in, fully armed, mortar, with everything, no? So any city, it's unprecedented. The moment they go in, really, no city will be ready. Anywhere in the Philippines, they will not be ready to have 400 rebels coming in with all their firepowers. So
Interesting
we're
that
just
you
very
talk
thankful
that
the
way.
military are all doing their best.
Okay. Interesting that you talk that way, Edwin, no? Para bang ang message mo is eyes on the prize, no? Diretso lang ang tingin. Kumbaga, you feel very confident that Zamboanga will rise after this.
Yes. From our part, I think we also have to be realistic and be practical about this. That we have to consider another risk, no? Instead of the just business risk, we used to consider what a competitor will do. Now we call it the occupational risk. And yet,
What risk? Sorry.
the occupational risk.
Occupational.
The joke is occupational risk now, being here with our family. But we have to, again, for as a Chinese businessman, it can be a opportunity also for us to stay here. And then I was talking to a friend this morning. Are we too naive as businessmen? Are we too naive? How come we're not moving? And my friend told me directly, Edwin, we cannot leave now. Because if we leave now, what will happen? Because we will send a message to the other businessmen also. So it's a chain effect, the economic side. So eventually we'll be left with the political and the cultural to solve the economic side. We need the three, we need to work together, the political, the cultural, and the economic sector has to work hand in hand together to bring back the city to where it used to be or where it wants to be.
Okay. Were you born in Zamboanga, Edwin?
Yes, I was born in Manila, but I grew up in Zamboanga from 1972 all the way to until I studied out in Manila and I came back to Zamboanga, 1996.
Okay. Wow. Very great words from you. Ganda. We cannot leave now. Thank you very much, Edwin To. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And just final words from General Tutaan. After hearing Candy and Edwin talking, these are Zamboangueños.
Yes, this is exactly the very civilians that we are also looking into. It's not only the civilians who were held hostage by the MNLF faction, but these civilians who live, they were out from the conflict area, and they are living in fear during those 10 days. And part of our efforts was to ensure that they are safe, that they are not brought into this conflict by spillover incidents in their areas. And those were the considerations. And that's why really our calibrated response was really precise and exact, that these things would be looked into without these civilians being caught in any crossfire. And I think the military and the police efforts have been successful in a way that we are protecting them, and we have minimized casualties on the civilian side and making the situation in the area normal in a sense, and help them, Zamboanga City, get back and rise back again into what they were before, even better, as what Mayor Beng is saying.
No one, of course, General, can predict when this is all going to end, right?
Yes, of course, but again, the efforts are to make this as soon as possible and make sure that the processes of going back into normalcy is undertaken in a collaborated, in a collective effort by all sectors concerned. The AFP will be there to help.
Maraming salamat po, General Domingo Tutan of the AFP. Thank you, sir,
Thank
for
you very
joining
much,
us again.
Pia.
I have to say this, I hope we don't see each other
Yeah.
again next week. But,
That means to say there's no more conflict, and we're geared
which
towards
would be a good
normalcy.
thing.
Yes,
yeah.
of course.
And thank you, of course, to our netizen who joined us from Zamboanga, Candy, and thank you also to Edwin To of the Zamboanga Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for watching. I'm Pia Hontiveros. This is News.PH. See you again next Wednesday. Good night.